Welcome. Whole World Protect Thyself YouTube page where we face tough situations head on. Find the best decision. In this cold world, self-protection is key. In this cold world, wisdom is armor. So in this cold world, we must always protect thyself. Welcome back, man. The Cold World Protect Thyself YouTube page. Today, we got a goodie. This is, I think, a black and white conversation. Black American versus white American. It's not even versus. It's a conversation, bro. It's like we gotta get here. We right here. We need to be right here. No Diddy. Let's get into it, bro.
I was chosen to read the following prompt. White Americans have way more advantages than Black Americans.
I think I'm a rarity here.
It would seem so.
Do white Americans have more advantages because they're white, or do just white Americans have advantages because of historic factors? I think that people want to argue at the end of the day over whether it's because you're white or not. I think that the answer is because
if they sit down, they agree with the question.
You're white in the past, and that's how it kind of carries over to today. You know, even in times of the United States history where black people have tried to build wealth, you know, with the Tulsa riots and everything, yes, where, that this wealth has been destroyed. And something that's upsetting to me is when conservatives talk about how we can't blame the past for what's happening in the present. That is true to some extent. But then the next breath, they'll talk about how important it is to have dual parent households, how important it is to have a strong family, to have responsibility passed on from parent to child. And we've seen in the past that because of racial issues, that process has been severely disrupted.
The funny thing is that agreeing with all these things is when I did my research when I was younger, which arrived me to my standpoint of being a conservative, because I believed it was racist, Democrat, liberal ideologies and policies dating all the way back to the 1800s, all the way up to the 1960s, and then the purported big switch. But I think it was more so when Democrats decided to be a bit more cloak and dagger about their true opinions of black people and be more secretive and more, we want to help you by, doing these things and seeing them as inferior. Affirmative action, welfare, all sorts of things that eventually ruin our culture and place us where we are now.
So
but I want to get back to the history of it, because we're talking about...
Well, I just want to make sure we're clear. Giving them money hurt them, right? Is that what you're saying?
Well, yes, giving them, because if your father's out of the home, that's when we give you the money. If you're living in this housing,
so then give them the money while the dad's
rent-free.
Well, then give them the money while the dad's in the home.
If you're working this amount of hours and getting blessed in this amount of dollars, you're getting money from the government. Yes, it is incentivizing. You're
throwing the baby out with the bathwater.
I don't even know what that means in this scenario, because yes,
you're
okay, you want to talk about throwing babies out with the bathwater? Margaret Sanger wanted to exterminate the black race because she thought they were weeds. So yeah, we can literally talk about throwing the baby out with the bathwater. That's what Margaret Sanger, that's what Democrat policies wanted to do to my people. So that's why I feel so strongly about it, because it is these policies that date back centuries that were built off of the death and poverty of my people.
What is he?
Let's take a breath.
Conservative?
So,
I'm breathing.
Okay.
So a lot of babies aren't, but sadly.
I don't know what that means. When I say throw the baby out with the bathwater, you want to completely get rid of welfare, okay? Or at least I don't want to put that on you haven't said that, but the conservative apparatus does, clearly. So giving money to a group of people does not hurt them.
I mean, sure, you're talking about a lottery. You just, hey, take money. But there are strings attached to that money.
Take all the money.
There are strings attached to that money.
Give them millions. Make them all millionaires.
He means there are strings attached to that, meaning our women would want the money to live on instead of the father. She might not trust the father or whatever, or the father, I don't know, did something wrong at one time. She is going to go to the Uncle Tom. Hey, I need some money from him, and live off of that. If you're not like in this world as a community and you're all for yourself, it's a smart move. That's how I look at it.
Don't care. Giving money to black people does not hurt them.
And that has not happened, though. That has not happened.
What do you mean?
That has not happened.
It
hasn't been a reparations. It hasn't been this or that. It has been a welfare program, Great Societies Act, that was built off of the idea of, hey, we get these families split up. We get these people living here.
So then let them keep the family together and keep all the money.
I mean, I guess so, but I guarantee you,
I guess so. Why would you not advocate for that?
So in your, I guess, research of like history of this country and everything, do you find like the Reconstruction era and like the failures of like what it wanted to be and then what it ended up being, and then which led into had downstream effects to enter into the Jim Crow era. And you have policies like redlining that influence how schools are funded. The downstream effects of slavery, do you think put Black people as generally in a worse off position than white Americans?
I think generation by generation, the effects of slavery have been diluted, but generation by generation, the effects of racism, welfare-based policies, and things of that nature became even more great. So in the 1880s or so, when we had our first Black members of Congress, which were indeed Republicans, I think that was a great start for things. But obviously, we had terrible things that happened, like the Tulsa massacre, among Black people being chased out of their homes by the KKK.
Sure.
All funded by the Democrat Party, all supported by the Democrat Party.
Well, I need to stop you there.
Jacob.
Can you attribute not to the party, but to the ideology? Because I think when you think, regardless of whatever the party switch was, traditionally conservative values did not that's more aligned with more racist policies in this country.
It's very difficult to compare 2020's conservatism to 1880s conservatism. Oh, I was loving the 1v4.
So personally, I feel like there's really only one thing that white people have a true advantage over Black people with, and it's that white people are less likely to be forced into a box. It happens with Black people onto other Black people, but it especially happens with white liberals onto Black conservatives, where we are told that we are supposed to think a certain way, be a certain way, and if we're not, then we're called these names like etc. And the worst of all is bootlicker, because I hate when a white liberal tells me as a
that happens. Being boxed in a Black neighborhood, it's easy because you are taught to not to be yourself. You can be going over white friends, you can go over Mexican friends. You get back to that Black community, you better tuck all that shit you learned and over there and not bring it over here, because this is, it's crazy. It's mind fuck.
Black man that I'm a bootlicker, because then I ask, whose boot am I licking? Because you're telling me as a white person that me as a Black person that I'm licking your boot because I don't think in this box that you want me to frame my mentality in. That to me is real racism, and that's what we need to stop allowing to happen to us, because Black people are so quick now to not branch out and to have new ways of thinking, or to go into careers like agriculture and these other career paths that Black people don't typically get into. It's not because of racism stopping them from getting in there. It's because we're told for so long that you have to follow this path and you have to think a certain way.
I think America is a great place for a Black person. I think I'm an American. Anything that's available to me is available to me and mine.
I've personally never experienced white people having way more privileges than me. I'm sure you could find certain institutions where Black people are treated differently, but in general, I don't think that I've missed out on anything because of being Black. And if anything, it's given me more of a voice because people will want to hear what I say now because I'm Black. So if anything, I have more of a platform just on the basis of being a Black conservative and saying what's not popular than I would if I was just a white person who was also conservative.
Or they might be surprised on the way you talk.
Decision to end affirmative action.
I think I'm not going to start. Someone else can start. Sorry.
I think affirmative action has served its purpose. I think that it was necessary for a particular time. And I think that every Black person knows how to get into college. You could pull out the names, the Oprah, President Obama. You can pull out the head of Time Warner was Black man, the Forbes was Black man. We know what to do now. We don't need affirmative action anymore. And to me, affirmative action is offensive sometimes, especially nowadays, because I have 6 children and 2 boys, 4 girls. And all of them went to Harvard and Columbia and this one and that one. And it breaks my heart to think that they accomplished that goal of getting into these institutions just because of the color of their skin.
I can definitely say that it creates a lot of tension when you have affirmative action. I remember my first week at the University of Illinois, I was sitting with some classmates and a white student turned to me and jokingly hey, Xavier, did you just attach a smiley face when you applied for this college? And I started asking what he meant, and he said to me that he was like, you're Black, I'm assuming you had decent grades. You could have just attached a smiley face and you would have gotten into the university. So I was livid by that, and I went off. I started naming all of my accomplishments, and I felt so confident only for about an hour. Because then an hour later, I started saying to myself, wow, did I actually earn my way in here? I started to have this insecurity, and I started wondering to myself, did I earn this position myself, or did my ancestors' suffering earn this for me?
And two, I've seen it in the sense of like affirmative action taking away from other people who are minorities. Like I had a friend who was Asian and he in high school and he really wanted to go to MIT. That was his dream school. He interned there. He was super like prepared to go there and he didn't get in. And you can only assume that it was because of affirmative action because they have such a large Asian population that they want to admit other people.
Yeah, I was going to actually argue that it's more racist nowadays because it excludes so many Asian Americans from getting into universities who do deserve a spot and they can't get in because of affirmative action, which again, like you were saying, was necessary at the time. Yeah. But now it's like anybody, if you have the skills to do it and you're in America, you can get it.
I don't think affirmative action is the worst thing, considering all the different types or aspects of the background you might take into account when somebody's getting into college, whether they were in
Harvard is the best school you can get. Why isn't like it's a top tier school, right? There should be like at least 10 to 20 more across the board that like, so just like in other, states and stuff, so you can reach it easily. Oh no.
certain clubs, Boy Scouts, what type of classes they took that might not be available to everybody. I don't think that factoring in the affirmative action is necessarily a bad thing, but I feel like because of everything you guys have said, the optics behind it are so horrible today that even if it is slightly beneficial in the long run for...
I think affirmative action is beneficial. Because let's say if we didn't have affirmative action, you might get all Asians to run a sector of something that, or to school and claim it as their own, and then it becomes if you're not Asian if you didn't go to this school. So you need affirmative action, man. I think that's my argument.
Trump supports Black lives.
Ooh. Trump supports Black lives.
I think that President Trump supports all lives. I think that he looks at all American citizens as equal. I don't see him doing anything that would make you feel like he does not support Black lives. That's, of course, going to lead into the conversation of Black Lives Matter, which was a movement and an organization with so much corruption. Donald Trump not supporting that organization doesn't mean that he doesn't support Black lives. It just means that he doesn't support the fraudulent organization that's stealing so much money from so many people to do absolutely nothing with it. Nor does he support a destructive movement that is destroying cities, communities, lives, etc. So I don't see why someone would think that President Trump doesn't support Black lives.
I've heard him say he knows all the best Black people. He has all the best Black friends. I do support Black people.
You hate him so much. You study his voice.
Sorry, that was a very bad impression. But I don't think Donald Trump wants bad things to happen to Black people. So in that respect, I think he does support Black lives. But the other side of that is he's not really doing anything. He didn't do anything as president, certainly, to uplift Black people.
The economy affects Black people.
Yeah, I certainly disagree with that point. One of the biggest things I supported personally. Well, yeah, we'll get into that one later. One of the biggest things he did is he secured permanent funding for HBCUs, one of the largest increases we ever saw for HBCUs, personally done by his administration, among many other things. The First Step Act, which, there's a lot of debate about whether it was really the best thing to do, but that was definitely a kiss of love to the Black race. Freeing Alice Johnson for menial drug crimes she committed in the past that had her locked up. She did not get to see her family for years.
Yeah, but that's not like, I did say I agree, but I agree in the sense that Donald Trump doesn't literally want bad things to happen to Black people, like I think a lot of conservatives do. So I think that he just says the most, I do think that. I think he says the things that will get him elected. So I don't think that he has any personal grudges against most people. He just says the most popular thing. So I think like Ron DeSantis would be, Ron DeSantis would be somebody that I think actually wants Black people to be hurt. So by that standard, Donald Trump supports Black lives by leaps and bounds.
You think Donald Trump says the most popular thing?
Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
Then why do so many people hate him?
Let's say if we're running for president, right? We want to be president of the United States, point blank period. We feel like we can run better than anybody. But we have to say something in the algorithm of life that everybody will draw interest into. That's smart. That's like a Chicago thug snitching on his ops. Now you don't have no ops. That's smart. But we lost it. But yeah, I commend him. I always said that. Yeah, he steps ahead, basically. Seems like playing the game y'all play.
He got elected as president.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
He didn't win the popular vote. Neither time.
That's a
That's
liberal
what your
talking
side
point.
loves to say.
That's a liberal talking
I'm
point.
helping you here. I'm trying to see the logic in this. Obviously, he says things
Right. I like
to be elected as a
Open-minded.
politician very similarly to how Joe Biden did, except Joe Biden actually has a history of racism.
If he said things that
Facts.
people didn't like, he wouldn't have been our president.
So you like everything that Donald Trump says? You think everything he says is popular?
I love a lot of the things he says. I think he's hilarious.
wow.
When he said big water, that was one of my favorite quotes. Big water.
Water,
He
big
trolling.
water, ocean water.
He has the funniest one-liners. So
It's
I
just
love a
he
lot
talks
of things. He says.
well.
As far as policy, he sucks. But
You're
Just shocked
paying
wearing a Hunter Biden
attention
hat.
to
He
the
looks
way
like
it's
it's kind of one line.
oh, he's. I know conservatives love talking about his.
No, Coke.
seen somebody-
It's different. Coke, not.
Trump is less of the issue and more so the people that support him, like Die Hard. They facilitate that kind of like hate, I think, for a lot of
Yes.
people, not just black people, but like.
Yes.
I mean, this man took out like a full page in a newspaper calling for the public execution of 5 black kids. His hotels, all of his businesses have rampant history of denying black people apartments or whatever. So
I forgot about that.
I
should
just
not have stepped forward.
look. I mean, Donald Trump cares about Donald Trump. So I don't think he really cares about anyone. I guess unless you're like super rich or whatever.
When you look at his history on racial issues, whether it's the shithole countries comment, the
You're
plethora of
for
comments
yourself.
about Mexican people, the comments he's made about Muslims, the idea that
Doing
Trump
everything
cares
to get
at
to
all
the
about some
top,
particular
bro.
racial minority, I think it's a
Ain't
little
gonna
bit
kill
silly. I think Trump will
nobody,
say
but-
whatever he needs to say to rile up his base and to get elected.
I don't necessarily think those statements come from a place of hatred. I don't think he was ever saying specifically, oh, if you pray
He
5
has
times a day
guns
towards
against
the
the
east or towards
government.
Mega based on wherever you are, you're a bad person. I think he was saying if you like to fly planes into towers or behead people or throw people off of buildings, maybe you're not the most virtuous person out there.
I supported Trump because he made the economy good, and so the economy then impacted black people, white people, Latino people. It impacted everybody. But Trump. He didn't think specifically, I don't think, about black people. He thought about himself, and he thought about how can I make America great for me, and making and I thought, you know what, I'm gonna go with this guy, and the reason I'm gonna go with this guy is because if he can make America great for and he can make it rise for everybody, I'm gonna benefit from that. So that's why I went, and that's why I voted for him. That's why I supported him.
How does that specifically benefit black people? Again, he
Let's
has.
hear it.
He's a businessman, but he's also a racist businessman, and like well documented. So like I just.
Well, give me an example.
And Biden's not.
And Biden's not.
Yes, he is. He created the crime bill. So that's regardless of the
Well,
point.
address the Central Park 5. That's what you brought up, right? How do you feel about that?
Well,
he took that full
actually,
page out after
okay,
they were
so
exonerated.
I haven't.
He wanted them
dealt-
to be killed,
Well,
executed, just because they were black.
That story.
And he bars people from attending his businesses or like renting apartments from all his like stupid Trump towers. I
think Trump at that point was, like many
crazy.
people in this room,
You know about
particularly
that,
liberals,
yeah.
a victim of the media. I think he was
Right.
scared. I think he was
Right.
ashamed of the things that he heard in the news and wanted to take action himself as a businessman, not as a
Why are you
racist.
infantilizing him?
I don't like also real quick because people keep bringing up this comparison to the '93 crime bill from Biden. That crime bill, this was at the height of like violent crime and the crack epidemic in the United States. The Congressional Black Caucus supported that crime bill. Everybody in the United States supported that crime bill. The idea that that crime bill was like some racist piece of legislation that Biden was just wheeling out because he hates black people, and that's comparable to the Donald Trump's treatment of the Central Park 5 that were already exonerated. That wasn't a victim of the media. The media said they were done. They were exonerated in court. They weren't there.
As I understand it, the prosecutor of the 5, he was a black guy, and so in being a black guy, he went and he looked at all the evidence and said these guys are guilty.
Black people can also be racist against other black people.
Or just
Black
make
guy-
mistakes.
So if anybody does anything you disagree with in regards to the Central Park 5, even if they themselves are a black person, they're just a self-loathing black person, they're just a racist black person.
If they disagree
that
with me, they're
prosecutor was
racist.
doing his job.
That's my policy. If they disagree with me, they're racist.
I like that.
I think Trump. I think Trump has
I don't
shown
like
a
the trolling.
history
Like, are
of
we talking or
ignorant
stop
at
trolling?
best and racist at worst
get to
behavior.
meat
I
of
didn't
the
vote for
bone,
him
bro.
or Hillary because I just don't see him as a conservative
I-
hero. I don't even think he's a conservative.
Fake
personally.
conservative. I voted Trump in 2016, just so you all know. So I'm just saying.
So I need
Oh
to
my God.
I need you to elaborate on if people disagree with you, they're racist, just in general.
I was just kidding.
He's just, yeah,
you never know.
Just like
one
the
of those
hat.
kind of
It's,
moments.
sorry if I triggered you. I'm sorry.
You made
No,
a
I'm not
point.
sure. I just
You made a
need to know.
point.
Bro,
It's back where you
this is
said,
I liked it until this guy in the flower. I hate trolls. Trolls can't talk in conversation. You can't have a troll talking in a serious conversation like this. It's not. It doesn't say. It doesn't. For a black person, I think we want to get to the root of the bones. Like, we want to understand. And you got this stuff where I don't want to answer fully. No, this needs to be talked about and well articulated. Actually, I'm probably gonna do a part 2, man. Thank you for sticking by. If you like it, hit the like. If you got any comments, write your comment. I'll try to get back to you. Cold War, protect yourself. Peace.